Hello everybody. This is my final segment on the history of Planet X, and this is the late modern history of Planet X. But first, a quick recap. This is a NASA drawing of the of an artist, obviously an artist's impression of the asteroid belt, which lies between Mars and Jupiter. And the debris in the asteroid belt is made up of 3 planets that were broken up 3.9 million years ago. And at that time, Earth rode in that orbit as a 5th planet from the Sun. And Earth was hit in the Pacific Ocean area by a Planet X moon, and that impact drove it out of the asteroid belt, and it slowly wobbled its way into the 3rd position where it is now. Apparently it's not exactly where it was, but it's very close. This brings up a very interesting point that many people think in terms of the orbit. The way the zeta-talk puts it is they say orbits are not sacred, and that makes a lot of sense because as forces come and go in the universe, in the solar system, you're going to have the planets adjusting the orbits. So here, okay, so let's move on to the core part of what I want to discuss. I've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 different layers to discuss with you regarding the late modern history of Planet X. Now let's start with the various names that we have for Planet X. Now I believe there's about 50 possible names you can find on the internet. Here there's probably about 25 different names from all the different cultures around the world. Now in India it is known as the god Shiva, the destroyer. In China is known as the red dragon. And by the way, this is the impact of that Planet X moon. This is why the Pacific is so large. A certain tribe in California called Planet X Tawats. In central US you have the Hopi Indian peoples, and they called it the Red Kashina. And then we move over here into Africa, and it had its own name, but I'm not sure what the Africans called it. I can show you what the Africans, how the Africans drew it. And this is actually a drawing taken from a rock carving, either a rock carving or a rock drawing in Africa. This is the tail of Planet X, and these are the moon swirls coming off of it. So, and then we have now I'm going to take a chance and call this Muslim area. In the Muslim, because I'm not certain, because the Muslim religion is such a very large religion around the world, and I believe it's Africa as well. But anyways, in the Quran, the name for Planet X is known as, referred to as Nibiru, actually, which is a Sumerian name, but because you can find it if you search it. Also, it's also known in the Quran as Sakwar. So we have many names all around the world. And these cultures, this information is thousands of years old. So it's either the last pole shift or the one prior to that, or possibly the one prior to that, where these names were developed, and the word of mouth and writings and scrolls, the information was carried forward. So it's pretty obvious that if you have names for the same destroyer planet with the same effects on Earth all around the world, that's a very, very powerful cultural proof that Planet X existed. An interesting drawing here. This is known as a three-headed Azoth, which is, in my opinion, has been misinterpreted as an alchemist's concept of Mercury. I think it was taken from the red boots with the wings, which is classic Mercury, if you know your astrology. But this is actually a depiction of the sun, the moon, now, and Planet X. We'll go to another one here, another drawing of the same idea. This is the moon and sun, which are locked by the tail. So they're not going anywhere. And this is Planet X with the horns and the cross, and of course the planet is also known as Planet of the Crossing, which is not a planet as we know, it's actually a dwarf star. But anyways, so this is a tail of Planet X, and as you can see, Planet X is free from the tail, and it just is free to pass through the solar system. So I think this is I believe this is also in zeta-talk too, but they also say this was a representation of an ancient memory of Planet X. So we have the next cultural influence is something that we're all pretty much aware of these days, and that is the Western culture, and typically takes a form of text. And so again, here we have this is probably from about 83, and of course the NASA sent up the IRAS infrared sensing array to observe Planet X. So here we go again. Mystery heavenly body found close to Earth. Well, that's modern, very late modern history of the existence of Planet X. And this image here you've seen before. This was taken from an early science magazine from the 80s, and I'm not quite sure if I recall seeing that magazine. I may have. But here you have again the sun, and you have its binary twin here, 50 billion miles. They say 50 billion, but it's not. It's actually 68 trillion miles away. And there's the 10th planet written right there, Planet X, and showing the paths of Pioneer 11 and 10, which were sent out to measure and to look at Planet X. And so this is obviously what we know. NASA's has been, most of the satellites have been when they're launched. There's a public reason that's given to the public. There's always a secret reason to NASA launches. So they talk about the public as we just see in the news, but the real agenda is always in some way to study and try to figure out when Planet X is going to pass. Now, of course, it's in the right in here now. So, but at this time, it was still in the 80s. It was still in interstellar space, incoming. So we move back to here. So we had public discussion, and of course the public discussion stopped, and that's when the cover-up came into full swing. I remember seeing an article of a retraction I've never been able to find that article again, but there was an announcement in the paper of a certain paper. I don't know whether it was a Washington Post or which paper it was at the time, but there was an announcement, and then I noticed that it was a week later or a few days later, there was actually a published retraction. And the announcement was something about Planet X being found, and then there was a retraction in the paper of the story, and I can't remember the exact text, but it was like they'd made a mistake and all that. So obviously the Planet X cover-up gave them a call and do a retraction. So let's move on to religious layers. One of the big for religious people is especially Catholics, is the third secret of the Fatima. Now I've got it here. I read a piece in 2010 on it. Now I've got it right here, and you can read this later because you can just pause the video, and you can see the rest of the article up there. I'll let you read that. But basically, it was Sister Lucia, and this was you can read I believe it was in 1917, and she had great visions, and with her two cousins. These are her two cousins. They had visions together. Anyway, so that's historical. Of course, later on, she'd passed the secret to the Pope at the time. Of course, they put it in the archives, and they kept it hidden, the truth about what she saw. So that is one religious aspect of the history. So here, now we have Colburn. I'm sorry, my apologies. The Colburn excerpts, and I've got them over in here. Colburn. That's right. That's the Christian Bible. That's Edward Casey. Oops. Here's a fine gentleman. He's a Muslim. And he talks about Planet X. You might want to check him out. He's some very interesting things to say. So it seems that I cannot find that article. The Colburn excerpts. Okay, here we have the Colburn. The Colburn is known as the Egyptian Bible, and it amazingly survived book burnings over the centuries. Here, obviously, it's a digital version, but when you read it, you can find it online. It is free, and it is virtually full of references regarding what is the destroyer. They use the word the destroyer, and here is an example. The earth turned over as clay spun upon a potter's wheel. The whole land was filled with uproar from the thunder of the destroyer overhead. That is the thunder overhead, by the way, is upper stratospheric lightning, which this crop circle represents right here. This is from one of my interpretations from 2010, but this was shown as in zeta-talk as meaning how Planet X will appear as it approaches in the sky. That's its graduation of size. It'll appear before the pole shift, and at that time, at the time of the pole shift, this represents Planet X here. There'll be the stratospheric lightning, which is massively loud. Here are some examples of lab experiments. This is an actual image of a plasmic discharge in a lab. This one too, as you can see side by side, that's taken from that crop circle. So this So this event of the stratospheric lightning, that's where the loud thundering is coming from. Of course, there is other effects as well, which is, let me go back to the cobra, and that is the sound of moaning and lamentation on every side. That is the earth groan. And if you search Google, rather if you Google YouTube and look for strange sounds, and it's happening now, and that's the deep fissures of the earth under pressure and slowly moving under pressure, and it creates a vibration. The vibration goes to the surface of the earth, and if the vibration manages to find a homogeneous piece of material, mass of materials, such as a lake or a dam face, then it'll act as a speaker and broadcast it into the air. So that's what you're hearing there. So the Cobran is a great example of the cultural history of Planet X. The Christian Bible excerpts, Revelations is full of that. And there appeared another wonder in heaven, and behold, a great red dragon, having 7 heads and 10 horns and 7 crowns. Okay, that's quite a bit of allegory there, but there you go. And if you read through the Christian Bible in Revelations, you'll find all kinds of references to that, to Planet X. So that's a smattering of the religious accounts of which is a very large body of evidence. Geological. Scientists can't explain ice ages. Well, let me do that right now. When Planet X passes by, Earth responds by a crustal shift, and the crust is separated from the internal core, which is an iron nickel mass about the size of the moon. That's our magnetic core. And Planet X passes by. The iron core, magnetic core, locks onto Planet X, or I should put more likely, Planet X locks onto it and moves it to a different location, to a different orientation, separating the crust, and the crust follows later. So what happens is then, as what happened to these mammoths here, to find it, this fella was found frozen, perfectly intact, I believe 2007, in right here on this peninsula. And of course that's northern Russia, which is Siberia area. And so when you understand that these creatures are not meat-eating creatures, they graze on grasses and shrubs. And they have to do that year-round. So you're not going to find grasses and shrubs year-round in northern Russia, are you? No. So what had happened, as an example, is we'll go to Russia. So what happened is, here we are with this young mammoth here, for example. The crust moves, the earth moves under the frozen air. So the air doesn't move with the crust. So the earth, so the crust moves under the air layer. So you've got pretty nice conditions. They're eating flowers are found in their teeth, and boom, what happens? Crust, boom, within an hour, they're or less, they're under frigid, frozen air. That's why they're found frozen like that. So now, so the ice. So as the different. Sorry for switching screens here. I made this up a few years ago. This is zeta-talk information of the last 6 pole geographic North Pole positions. So starting, obviously, the last one is where it is now. Greenland was the prior, and then there's Russia. So those mastodons, rather those woolly mammoths, were caught in frigid air quickly at the 3rd pole shift ago. So what happens as the pole locations change over now, this is just 6 in the last 24 or so thousand years, the ice sheet naturally will follow each pole when it changes. So that's the shifting that's what's causing the ages. And of course the ages are very hard to nail down exactly, because everyone's experience on the face of on the globe, they'll have differing timings because of where they are. But that's the shifting of the ice sheet is because of these different pole locations. So we know that. So we discussed the mammoth and the found intact, perfect evidence of a flash freeze. Now here's a very interesting thing, which is still officially not recognized by science. And of course, for them to recognize it would mean that they'd have to admit that there is a very large gravitational pull on our solar system in the direction of Orion, which is the other foci of Planet X's sling orbit here. So the dead star, or the binary twin, or the dark star. That is being okay. So you've got this unanswered scientific conundrum. Now this represents the orbit of Uranus. And when Uranus was first discovered, now here's the article I did on that a few years ago. I'll leave it up there for a sec so you can read. Pause the video, and the rest of it is here. Okay, so these gentlemen, John Couch Adams and Levier, noticed and found the perturbations of the orbits of Uranus. And the way it works is Uranus was on its orbital track. When it was first discovered, it was discovered ahead of its predicted orbit. And what was happening is that Uranus was being drawn faster in its orbit because of the now I put my drawing of Planet X here, but just to indicate that this is the direction of the dead star, which Planet X comes from that direction. So Uranus was sped up in its orbit by the gravitational pull of the dark star, and as it progressed in its orbit, it began to leave and go the other direction of the gravitational pull, and therefore was slowed down. So that's what they discovered. It's called a perturbation in the orbit, and that's because of the binary twin of our sun. So these gentlemen, watching that, also because of the interest in that area, they discovered, I believe it was Herschel, who had discovered a Neptune, and then Clyde Tombaugh discovered Pluto afterwards. So all this took place because they were noticing these perturbations of the orbit of Uranus, and then of course of Neptune was doing the same thing. Pluto was not affected because apparently it doesn't. I'm not sure. I don't know if it has the mass or I think it's because of the mass. It doesn't have the mass, so it's not perturbation. It's not responding the same way. So this is astronomy. Percival Lowell is the gentleman who named the 10th planet, Planet X, and here he is in his Flagstaff observatory that he built to look for Planet X. So he looked his whole life and never found Planet X. He died before, but he's credited with the name Planet X, and he died before it was found by this fine gentleman here, while he was part of the finding, but Richard Harrington. So these men are scientists. Now, we don't hear about this today because of the cover-up. And that's just the way it goes in that I missed talking about. No, that's the psychics. Mother Shipton. She says it very nicely. Born 1488 in England. She says it very nicely. She says, forget. And when the dragon's tail is gone, man forgets and smiles and carries on. That's great. It is so true. So let's go back to our astronomy. So we've finished Percival Lowell. So there you have some astronomy proofs of Planet X. Now let's go to some ET evidence. Now this is a bit convoluted, but Planet X is inhabited by people, big people. They're known as Anunnaki, and Anunnaki are the subject has been convoluted in so many ways. I don't really like to discuss them except that they exist, and that's what the zeta-talk informs us of, and they live on the planet, and when the planet passes they jump off and they do stuff like this. They draw big massively large images on the sides of mountains, on the plains of Nibiru. These are the Nazca lines, so large, just not impossible for peoples to do that kind of thing. These lines were drawn by the Anunnaki for landing strips and various reasons that they needed. And of course, the only place you can see these is from when you're up in the sky and in a spaceship. And you know, this is not something that the Peruvians were doing at the time. So we know that the Anunnaki jump off and mine gold. This is a very cursory thing, but this is an example of Planet X passing through the solar system, and the Anunnaki taking advantage of being close to Earth to jump off, and then they colonize Earth, and there was and this is an example of the Easter Island heads being excavated. And but I want to point out the next. So this is the Anunnaki evidence on Earth. So if you look at the face of these heads, and I want you to compare that with an actor. The reason I want to do that is to show how because the Anunnaki were inhabiting Earth for, I believe, 450,000 years. They interbred with humans. And this man is Dilip Singh. Here you see him in, this is Get Smart, the movie. I took these shots out of Get Smart. And if you look at that face, and we'll switch back. You see the similarities. He has the genes of the Anunnaki in him. I've seen other people, humans, that look like this guy. A good example of Anunnaki genes. So more examples of the cultural, or rather the ET evidence. More ET evidence is the crop circle, which I'll do a detailed analysis at the end of this this piece here. So you've got Edgar Cayce. He's discussed the pole shifts. Talks about the shifting of the poles. You can read this here. So he has made. He said it was going to be something like the year 2000 at some point, but he talked about a pole shift. And you have also Mother Shipton, as I'll go over her again. It's just such a terrific examples of the prophecies. I've highlighted the dragons here. A fiery dragon will cross the sky. When the dragon's tail is gone, man forgets and smiles and carries on. That's all of us. As the dragon tail goes sweeping by, not every land on earth will sink. The dragon's tail for many years, but the time erases memory. So those are her referring to Planet X. And finally, in the philosophers and thinking department, we have Charles Hapgood, Immanuel Velikovsky, and Einstein. Einstein wrote Charles Hapgood wrote a book about the Earth's shifting crust, and guess who wrote the preface? Albert Einstein. And of course, Velikovsky also talks about the catastrophe in his book, Worlds in Collision. So these are great thinkers, and they talked about the crustal shift, which implies Planet X. So our next and final segment of this last finale on the late modern history of Planet X is going to be this crop circle here. Okay, this is a crop circle I want to cover as part of my finale about the proof of Planet X, late modern proof. But this particular crop circle I I am going to explain in a moment. But first, I want to show you something that I compiled, perhaps about 2011, and well, I guess it must have been 2012, I guess, because the latest one is in 2012. So this is an example of 3 different types of crop circles, and I'm comparing those different types here of the same type here, but these are genuine and these are fake. You can see when and where they were laid down here. Now, the ET crop circle makers are deadly accurate in what they put down. Very, very accurate. If you look close here, you can see that it's very, very bad. The progression between these arcs here are not perfect. Just very bad. And this circle is not perfectly round either. Another interesting thing about a genuine crop circle is that it usually has some sort of mystique or magic about it. And you'll see that in the next ones, the next set, which are the genuine ones. This is an example of the icon style of crop circle. It's representative of well, I don't know what it represents here, but clearly it has the face of a so-called alien. But one thing about the ET crop circle makers is they don't aggrandize themselves, and they don't present digital information. This is just so bad. It's a fake. Here's an example of a really poor fake and no magic. First of all, you can see the large circle that the worm comes out of has meaningless symbols in here. Like, the whole purpose of a crop circle is to impart something to the viewer. The crop circles are laid down because they want the public of Earth to have a subjective experience that imbues truth about what they're trying to say. This is so here you have meaningless lines in here, and they tried to copy other genuine circles, but it's just so bad. Now here you have a series of disks that if you're going to have a series of disks like that, it can only mean one thing. What it means is how Planet X appears as it comes and leaves the skies of Earth. Here, all the disks are the same size. This has no magic, no meaning. It's dead, and this face is just ridiculous. It's just, it might have been a joke, but it's a fake. So that's the insect style, and that's geometric, and this is the icon style, all fake. Now let's look at some genuine ones here. Now, this is real. Look at the symmetry. This represents the tilting of Earth, and actually, no, it doesn't. It actually represents an upright Earth. This is the thing. One of the limitations of the shot. I couldn't get one of this genuine Abbotsdown 2007 crop circle because there was no shot of it that was showing it in its true way it was meant to be viewed. And this is vertical. This is absolutely vertical here. And what it indicates is equal day and night. And this is at a time during the which is known in zeta-talk circles as the last weeks, and which would be the last 8 months, 6 months, 3 months, something like that, when Earth will be standing upright, and you will have equal day and night. So that's a heads up by the ET circle makers, what to expect. As you can see, obviously, with the it's cut in half like that. So night and day. So that's what that means. Here we have Clatford 2009. I did an analysis at one time. It's quite complex, but these are Each each event, these are different. There's an event, that's an event, this is an event, and that's an event. And this is a timeline, and this is the real deal. You have to read my newsletter to get the in-depth analysis on that, which I take from zeta-talk, by the way. But I have my own viewpoints as well. And here is the insect style. This is genuine, and this, if I remember correctly, is indicating the attitudes of Earth as Planet X progresses towards the pole shift. And these are various attitudes of Earth and shape that it goes through. You'll have to read my my analysis of that, or zeta-talk analysis. Look for the dragonfly. But those are real. So let's go to this analysis I did. And this is not, I think, in my Planet X my new series, issue 3. And so this is Utenbosch, April the 28th this year, 25th, well, last year actually now, in Brabant, Netherlands. This is in grass. And okay, so what we have here are several different elements being represented here. You've got the center is, this spiral represents the sun and also the passage of time. So this is the sun. And the spiral represents the last 4 years, rather the prior 4 years to Planet X entering the solar system. These numbers really should be 1, 2, 3, 4. So this is the fourth last year, the third last year, the oh, sorry, get my numbers back. Anyway, this is the third last year, and this is the first. Sorry. So now, so that's what this spiral means, is the last 4 years, prior 4 years before Planet X entered the solar system. Now, around the outside of the spiral, we have various circles in size and placement, the distances between them. And this is very significant in that it represents, this is December, I calculated, this is December 2002, when Planet X was still just barely had entered, it's still in interstellar space, but very close to the solar system. And so these circles represent the progress of Planet X as it moves into the solar system, which is not wasn't a smooth event. It was actually, it had to move and shift and bob quite a bit around to avoid the massive movement of the fluxes of the sun as it entered the solar system. I'm trying to find a drawing. Where is my? There we go. And we're going to go to one of my drawings here that indicates the profile of incoming Planet X. This is also in my issue 3 here. So this is about 1983. So this is the profile of its approach. And it got up 20 degrees in solar system north, and had to dip down, bob down underneath. The real intense area is in here, near the sun, like that, on the ecliptic here. This is where all the intense particle flows are happening. So to bob, don't forget, it started way down here as well. This only shows it to 83, but it's really over here. You can see over here. So this was the profile of its approach. So it was quite an involved procedure for Planet X to get into the solar system. So we are going to go back to my history of Planet X modern, and we are going to go back to here. Okay, so here we have this progression. That's why these circles are differently placed between the two and the different sizes. So now here we have, this is November of 2003, so a month before its official entry into the solar system. So you can see Planet X is, except here, it's getting larger. Now it's because it's moving. Now these, the smaller the circle, the faster it's moving. The larger the circle, the more pressure is that Planet X was finding. So that's why it gets larger. So here we are, November is getting larger because it's entering the solar system, and the atomic particles and the gravitational particles and the repulsion force particles are very much more plentiful out in our solar system than they are in interstellar space, where this is here. So I hope you're able to follow this. So November 2003. This is orbit halt. Now, as Planet X approaches orbit halt, what happens is that it's obviously experiencing the largest amount of pressure from Earth, because it came up against Earth's gravitational in its forces. So that's why it's large like this. So it came to us. It caused orbit halt here, December 2003. The blue dot represents something I'll get to in a minute. And then now, obviously, since Earth started moving backwards, so the pressure on Planet X was less. So it gets smaller here because Earth is now moving. Don't forget, Earth was coming one way and Planet X is coming the other. So they clashed. That's why it's represented as a large circle. So Earth starts to move backwards in orbit. That's why it gets smaller, because the pressure is less, because Earth is backing up. And here you have the pole shift. The large circle at the back here is Earth, and the small smaller one here is Planet X, because it's continuing to move. That's why these are the same size. This is Planet X, and this is Earth behind, experiencing this pole shift. And here we have Planet X exiting the solar system. So this crop circle represents a timeline of Planet X entry into the solar system, the orbit halt with Earth, and the progression to the pole shift here, and its exit from the solar system. So that's an analysis of that. Now, this the detail I've taken from zeta-talk, and I've added a few mild little bits and pieces that you pick up along the way when you start into analyzing. But anyways, this little blue dot was the location of a single plant, an alfalfa plant that was left standing in the middle of a circle that was all laid down. The reason why this is light is because it's all laid down, so reflecting the light. But there's only one planet that was standing up like that. And I've thought about that a lot, and for me, the plant standing there represents life to me, and that the pole shift and the whole process doesn't mean that everyone has to die. We have to prepare ourselves. It's just different ways of looking at it. But anyways, that's So I think that concludes the history of late modern history of Planet X, and we've covered a lot of ground. And I hope you found that of interest. And if you have any questions, feel free to ask on the YouTube there. And so this is Chris Wakefield, Chris Thomas, signing off on this subject.